Hi everybody, thanks for watching. Today we're going to be making another home style meal, chicken and dumplings. It's a one pot meal. Everything's going to be done in one pot, finished in one pot, served from one pot. So less mess in the kitchen. We are going to do this one a little bit easier. We're going to be using some canned veggies. I know everyone went out and did some Corona Apocalypse shopping and stocked up their pantries with canned goods. Well, we're going to use up some of those canned veggies today, along with some other stuff that we've done to make this recipe a little bit easier, but still good and still with that home style vibe that Mom used to make. So what we've started with is 4 tablespoons or about a half a stick of butter in a pot. Hot. To that, we're going to add 1 cup of finely chopped onion and 1 cup of thinly sliced celery. We're going to season those with 1 teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of pepper. I'm going to stir these up a little bit, let these cook down about 5 minutes or so, and then we'll get on with everything else. So I'm going to cook these down, let them soften, and I'll be back in a minute. So we've got our 1 cup of onion and 1 cup of celery, along with 4 tablespoons of butter, working in this pot right here. They've cooked down and we're just about ready to get going. I wanted to go over real quick the rest of the ingredients that we're going to need for this. We're going to need about half a tablespoon of minced garlic, 2 cans of sliced carrots, 1 can of green beans, 1 can of corn, 1 can of sweet peas, 2 packages of Pillsbury Grand's buttermilk biscuits. You'll see what we do with those later. So we need 12 cups of chicken broth, 1 cup of heavy cream, 3 pounds of cubed chicken breast, a half cup of Parmesan cheese, 4 tablespoons of flour, and 1 tablespoon of parsley. Just dried parsley, nothing special. You can go with the fresh stuff, I'm sure it's better, but for this I use dried parsley. So we've got our onion and our celery rendered down a little bit. To this we're going to add our garlic. It's fresh minced from a clove through a garlic press. Now to this we're going to add 3 pounds of cubed chicken breast. Give that a stir. We're working on about a medium-high heat right now, which is fine. We'll adjust as we go and switch it up, but medium-high is fine right now, and it'll let us get this chicken cooked. What we're going to do right now is kind of get the outside of this chicken cooked up with the without any liquid, and then we're going to add some liquid. So I'll get this chicken cooked up, probably about 25% cooked, just so the outside of each piece is cooked a little bit. Doesn't have to be cooked through because it's going to spend some time cooking in the liquid. So I'm going to get that cooked up, and we'll be back to start adding more ingredients in just a minute. Alright, so our chicken is fully cooked on the outside. We're going to go ahead and start adding our liquid ingredients. For the total recipe, we are going to need 12 cups of chicken broth. We're going to start right now by putting 10 cups of chicken broth in our pot. Alright, let's see how that looks. It looks good. Now is the time where I like to usually adjust for spices, primarily pepper. Just looking at this, I know I'm going to want to add a little bit more pepper, so I'll just go ahead and do that now. And I'm going to let this come to a simmer and simmer for about 10 or 15 minutes or so to cook the chicken through, and then we'll get on with the rest of our ingredients. So we'll let this go and we'll check back in a minute. Alright, so this has been simmering for about 10 minutes, and where we're at right now, we're going to add the rest of our liquid and thicken this up a little bit. What I've done is I've reserved 2 cups of the broth to make a thickening slurry to thicken this up. I know a lot of different recipes, and all the famous chefs are going to tell you you've got to make a roux to thicken a broth. You don't have to. One thing that is important, though, is that you don't want clumps, and to eliminate that, you take a little bit of your liquid that you were going to put in the whatever you're making, save that aside, add your thickening agent to that, whether it's flour or cornstarch, and then hit it in like a little blender or something like this. So now you've made a slurry, and as you add it to the liquid, whisk it in, and you won't have any clumps or anything like that. It'll thicken up just fine. Is a roux better? Probably. Is this easier? Oh yeah. So what I've got here is 2 cups of my broth left over, 4 tablespoons of flour, and a half a cup of Parmesan cheese that I put in here for a little bit of flavor too. So we're going to add this to our simmering liquid, along with 1 cup of heavy cream. Like I said, we're going to whisk this in as we pour it in. Alright, that looks good. We're going to bring this back up to a boil. That way we'll know exactly how thick we've got it here, which I think is going to be just fine. And then we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. So we'll be back in a minute. We've returned to a boil, and we are looking good. So we're going to move on with the rest of our ingredients. We're going to be adding 1 can of sweet peas, 1 can of sweet corn, 1 can of green beans, and 2 cans of sliced carrots. And 2. Alright, let's stir that up. That looks good. We're also going to add 1 tablespoon of dried parsley. Alright, looks great. Now what we're using for our dumplings in this chicken and dumpling recipe is actually Pillsbury Grand's buttermilk biscuits, just the biscuits in the can. And what I want to do with these first actually is pepper them. A little bit of flavor on your biscuits isn't a bad thing. So I peppered them a little bit, give them a little pat down so that pepper sticks, and I'm going to want to flour these slightly. Because we are going to cut each one of these into fourths. Flip them over, flour the other sides, and the additional flour on the biscuit dumplings will actually help thicken up your stock a little bit more. The flour is going to help them from sticking together as you add them in the pot. That way you've got individual dumplings and not just one big mass of dumpling. Get this back up to a simmer. We'll get that back up to a simmer while we're cutting our dumplings out of these biscuits. Like I said, we're going to cut each one of these into fourths. So each biscuit will give you 4 dumplings. once we've cut these, we're going to add them to our, what is essentially a soup. Alright, now that we've got our biscuits cut into quarters, we're going to add them in and turn them into dumplings. Just drop them in. And they'll mostly float up to the surface and finish there. How these cook is we're going to put the lid back on the pot and have it simmer for about 15 minutes, and they'll basically steam themselves in our base. So they become these nice, chewy, doughy little dumplings. Evenly distributed in your pot. We're going to put the lid on and check back on them in about 15 minutes. They'll simmer here for about 15 minutes. We'll see how they're doing, and then we'll be back. Alright, so we let the dumplings simmer for about 15 minutes, and they look great. I broke them up a little and stirred them in, and I'll give you a shot of this here in just a second. So, as you can see, we got all our chewy dumplings, our broth, and all our veggies and chicken. We'll dish this up in just a minute, and we'll show you what it looks like in a bowl. Alright, this has turned out great. Here's our finished product. Just finishing up, serving it up. Serve this with some side of fresh bread. And enjoy dinner. Thanks for watching. Take care, guys.